Mircea Eliade, historian and mythologist, and of many other things, psychologist, philosopher. He goes deep into alchemy in the Forge and the Crucible, the origins and structures of alchemy. He goes back to the Iron Age and works all the way through all the mythological tales, all the different evolutions of culture, how alchemy started as a very spiritual thing and then it turned into something that's very tangible and actually created a lot of the sciences we have today, like chemistry and physics and astronomy. So the profound sense of all these myths is clear enough. Creation is a sacrifice. One can put life into what one has created by only giving it one's own life: blood, tears, sperm, soul, etc. So he shares myths that explain this, the world of transformation. The alchemist is someone who can look at an energy, at a matter, and transform it into something else. Now, in order to transform it, there must be something must be destroyed, something must be given in order to create space and energy for that transformation to take place. So what I found very interesting is that some of these shaman and blacksmiths and alchemists, they would do these rituals where they would hold their sperm in and go off to the caves and do dances. And it's super interesting stuff. Is the way they were thinking is they were kind of on the right track with, okay, in order to, like, what's my sacrifice? My sacrifice is my intense intention and focus on what I'm trying to create. So how can we use that in our daily lives? If we're trying to be the alchemist of our own lives and transform our negative emotions into inspired emotions and be grateful and loving, it's like, okay, if I have this thing that's going on that I don't really like, how can I be the shaman and spiritually connect to that energy and sacrifice what I'm holding on to with incredible intention and focus towards something new that I want to create, and destroy the things that are holding me back and transform it into the gold. The gold is in your soul. The gold is truth. The gold is love. The gold is youth, because when you can integrate time and space disappear. If there's no time and space in your mind, you're ageless, you're infinite, because there is no such thing as time. So you have youth. The fountain of youth, the gold, is love. That is how I understand alchemy. The problem with the materialistic science is it takes the spiritual awareness out of it, and it goes very tangible, material kind of way of like, okay, if we get zinc and copper and sodium and then put them together, and then there's a reaction, there's iridium and then uranium, and then there's blah, 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 and then this reacts with this, and which is true as well. It's true as well, because if we know that bicarb soda reacts with vinegar, that's a reaction. So the spiritual alchemists knew that if we are angry and if we are angry and we throw more fire on that anger, if we want to have a conversation while we're angry, it's going to create a bad reaction, or an intense reaction. It's going to light up a storm. It's going to light up a bigger fire. So alchemy is really an understanding and awareness of the energies and the matter that surrounds us. And once you're aware of the matter and the energy that is around you, you can then begin to transform. They talk in the book, it's not about something that you can read in a book. It's not something you can just start. It's an inner journey. It's a spiritual transformation of the self in order to see the things outside of yourself, because everything we see is a reflection of us. There's nothing we can perceive that we don't have inside of our own souls. And it all begins with setting that intention for what I'm trying to create. What is my intention? So that's the first part of the book, is going through mythologies and talking about how the shaman and the blacksmith, they're the creators, right? That's what I'm talking about. If you want to be the creator of your own life, you're the shaman, you're the blacksmith. It's that energy of yourself. Or you go to the coach or the shaman or the blacksmith or the business advisor, or they're the creative, spiritually connected one that is going to understand what energy you're at, what energy you're trying to create, and then go, okay, what's the recipe in order to create that? Because that's all life really is. A strategy is just a recipe. It's a bunch of steps and intentions and directions in order to get where you want to go. So, and that's science as well. Science is trying to figure out a recipe that we can repeat with the same results. And then we call that, okay, that's a scientific experiment. That's cool. That works. That's science. We can publish that. If you keep doing an experiment and you keep getting different results, it's not science. So we're looking for that spiritual connection and awareness of the self, which is what the shaman and the blacksmiths were into. So that's the first part of the book. The second, or the last part of the book is, okay, so we understand that alchemy is an observation of nature and the energies and the matter, and then it's a transformation of that. So it's like, okay, if I want to make a diamond, right, I'm just going to have a sip of water. If I'm going to make diamonds, now normally in nature it takes 1,000 years to make a diamond, but with today's technology, we can make a diamond in, I don't know, a week with a special machine, because we understand the recipe. We understand what is needed in order to transform and create that new energy. What Mircea Eliade purports at the end of the book is, what is morally correct here? Are we cheating? Are we trying to cheat time? Because time, I feel, goes through a process and a series of patterns and circles in order to slowly grow and evolve. If I look at a tree and I go, okay, I want the tree to grow faster, is the tree that we grow in the lab going to be as strong as the tree that's organic and in nature? We're seeing this in our food. We're using fertilizer, we're using preservatives, we're using all fancy types of different soils and technologies in order to increase the speed of food. Now, is this correct? Are we losing something in the process? I feel like we're losing gratitude. Because if you had to go off to the shops, if you had to go to the farm to get your eggs, and then you had to go down to the butcher to get the meat, and then you had to go down to the fucking bakery to get your bread, and then you had to go down to the fish market to get your fish, and that's even like with the people. Imagine you had to go and catch a chicken, and then you had to go milk the fucking cow, and then you had to slaughter the cow and get the meat, and then you had to go fish and catch a fish, and then you had to go get the wheat. And like, the benefit of our increasing society and kind of advancing in the material form of alchemy, of like, okay, how do we create a building, a house for the chickens, and then what's the process to get the chicken to lay egg? It's very dry, and like, there's not that connection. That's what he's saying, is we've lost that spiritual connection and awareness. That's like all this depression, we're getting sucked in, and anxiety and fear and bad health and heart attacks and low testosterone and all these kind of things that are happening. is because we're all in such a rush and we're looking at things at we're not enjoying that process and we're not aware of the process. Where if you went up to a sage and you said, I read this story in my uncle, Dr. Alistair Ping's book. He's a black belt. How fitting. I have like a ninja headband on. The student goes up to the teacher and he says, okay, how long to get a black belt? The sensei says 10 years. And the student goes, okay, what if I work twice as hard as everyone to get the black belt? How long to get a black belt? And the sensei goes, 20 years. And then the student shakes his head and goes, what? Okay, well, I'm going to come in twice a day and work twice as hard. How long to get a black belt? And the sensei says, 30 years. The student says, but I'm working so much harder than everyone else and I'm putting in all this extra time. Why is it going to take me longer? And the sensei says, you have one eye on the end, on getting the black belt, and you have one eye on the journey. It's going to take you twice as long. So it's like, if we're focused on the end product and looking at things in the scientific method of, okay, if I mix the bicarb soda with the vinegar, then I get the explosion. Okay, cool. But we're not spiritually aware and connected and grateful for that, enjoying that process of transformation, of getting the soda, getting the vinegar, and kind of sucking up that transformation. The real alchemists knew that there was an everlasting transformation. You don't just transform into the gold and then that's it. You're gold. You're like the phoenix. You grow and you become a big phoenix and you flap your wings and you fly around and then you burn to ashes and you start from nothing. This is the process of growth through the different noospheres. And as we increase our levels of awareness, we're constantly growing and changing and dying and being reborn. And the Western world of consumerism is starting to lose that gratitude and awareness for for this computer I'm using. Like that's incredible. It's all the different parts from around the world. It's manufactured there. And it's like, okay, that's really cool. But how can I be aware of my own self, my own transformation? Because a lot of this, when things speed up, we can get connected and sort of entitled to this. Like the fucking power went out a month ago and I'm like, oh my God, there's no power. I can't charge my phone. I can't go on I can't like cook. I can't use the oven. The fridge isn't working. And we realize how dependent we are on all of these technologies. And it's like, I don't think it's only a good thing. I think there's disadvantages and it's just as bad as it is good. So that's the argument that he starts to sort of bring up at the end of the book, is like, hey, we're not aware of what we're doing. We are not aware. We must. If, therefore, alchemy could not be born from the desire to counterfeit gold, nor from a Greek scientific technique, we are compelled to look elsewhere for the origins of the discipline, sui generis, much more than the philosophic theory of the unity of matter. It was probably the old conception of the Earth Mother, bearer of the embryo ores, which crystallized faith in artificial transmutation. It was the encounter with the symbolisms, myths, and techniques of the miners, smelters, and smiths, which probably gave rise to the first alchemical operations. But above all, it was the experimental discovery of the living substance, such as it was felt by the artisans, which must have played the decisive role. Indeed, it is the conception of a complex and dramatic life of matter which constitutes the originality of alchemy as opposed to classical Greek science. One is entitled to suppose that the experience of dramatic life was made possible by the knowledge of Greco-Oriental mysteries. So it's like the thing that got us to where we are now, the awareness and the spiritual connection to matter and how to transform things, is what got us where we are today with all of this advance in technology. But now we have all of these things and we have things so fast, we can get anything we want as soon as we want. We've lost that. We've lost that connection. Does that make sense? I'm going to say that again because that is so important. what got us to where we are now, we have now stopped doing. So it is up to the individual soul for us to look within inside of ourselves and see where the darkness is, where is the filth, inster quillinus inventor, an alchemical Latin saying, in the filth it is found. Through the shit in ourselves creates the gold. We're looking for the black, the darkness, the chaos, and we figure out what is our quest, what is our spiritual journey, what do I want to create, what is my vision, what is my mission, what am I here to do, what is my purpose, and transform and use that energy inside of us to then create a greater version of us and find that gold within all of us, because there's gold within all of us. And if we settle for mediocre crystals outside of ourselves that have been created by this modern science and technology, which is not a bad thing. It's great. It's just like, okay, be grateful for the incredible science that has been around us, and remember that the thing that created all of this, the root of all of this that we have now, is from alchemy. It's from these spiritual people who are connected to nature and wondered, okay, if an earthquake creates a mountain over a long period of time, how can we speed that process up? Can we speed up the process of time? Is time something that we can massage and change if we use the right chemicals and the different matters and the different energies and put them in the right way with the right sequence? The alchemists would depend upon and look upon the stars to see when the stars were aligned and when the weather was aligned and when the time of the year was aligned, and then they would do their alchemical experiments. So they're very connected to the universe, very connected to nature. And that's something that we have lost. And Maciej Eliade talks about how we can further spiritually connect and expand our awareness and get to that level again where we can see the gold within ourselves, because we get reliant and entitled and lose that spiritual connection to ourselves and to the things that help us create the lives that we want. That is my take on The Forge and Crucible by Maciej Eliade. Thank you for watching. Subscribe.